What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Talkative. We're back for more. This is episode 7. I'm your host, Jason Martinez. Hope you guys are doing okay in this fine Wednesday afternoon. Two areas of discussion for today. I'm going to be discussing AI, the state of AI, from an article that was written 3 years ago, and what it really means, and essentially how we're sort of misinterpreting the term and the overall meaning of AI. And I'm also going to be reviewing and discussing the 2022 Royal Rumble and the state of WWE as a whole. And let me just start off right by saying that's probably going to be the biggest chunk of today's episode because, as somebody who's been a pro wrestling fan for the longest, has a lot to say for this pay per view and the current state of WWE creative and how they're booking their shows and just treating their talent overall. But before we get there, we're going to be discussing AI and just overall, like what it is, what it really means, and how we're sort of misinterpreting the term in a way. So, artificial intelligence, what it is and what it really means. As you guys know, when you think of the word artificial intelligence, you think of technology or robots doing things autonomously, doing things, conducting tasks for you in an autonomous way. And here's the crazy thing about AI. You know, when people automatically think AI, they immediately attach it to like sci-fi movies or what they see on TV nowadays, which you can think of like Terminator, iRobot, or even I thought of a good example here. If anyone who's listening is a gamer, if you guys ever played Detroit Become Human, you could see how AI has a big influence in that game with the androids, which ultimately are the main characters in that game. Great game, by the way. No plug, no ad. This is, because I played the game myself and it's a phenomenal game, phenomenal story. But yeah, essentially in Detroit Become Human, there's a huge emphasis and influence on AI. But it's just how they interpret it in the games, in the movies that we know of. It's not always about robots, humanoid androids, and humanoid robots. You know, at first acting noble, acting normal, doing tasks autonomously, helping other humans out with different tasks and whatnot, and then eventually going rogue, going a massive killing spree. No, that's just everything in movies and games, as you know, is exaggerated. So we can't really take that as a major influence when it comes to AI because we haven't reached that state of AI just yet. Technologies are still being developed, and I feel like we're not in that up to that level yet when it comes to AI development. I mean, concepts of humanoid robots and androids and what have you have been developed, and you've seen the crazy videos of the humanoid robots acting just as real as like an actual human. And it looks crazy, it kind of scary to some people, but this is a state in society and humanity that we're eventually going to reach at some given point. So, until then, let's just hope that it's not for a negative motive. Because that's one thing I want to explain here. Technology is developed, manufactured, and is used for good, but if you have bad intentions, then it could also be used for the worse. And when I mean bad intentions, I don't essentially mean like you developing a whole, let's say, army of human androids or humanoid robots and using that army for world domination. No, I mean essentially manipulating pieces of tech to doing things that they're not meant to do, and either causing a whole uproar or blaming the manufacturer as to why their product has a defect, or as to why their product is not functional. That's what I really mean. So it's not really much doing it for the worse, it's how we sometimes poorly manipulate tech and do things with these devices that they're not meant to do. Because oftentimes people say, or people would blame a manufacturer for a defect that a product has. But let's say these are people that like to rig stuff, but they do it carelessly. They do it without not knowing what the end effects could be, and then, but before even processing the situation, they automatically want to accuse the manufacturer for why that product is not functioning properly, or blaming the manufacturer for the defects that that product has, when you're rigging the product and taking it apart, or installing third-party software to do certain things, when maybe that product, whether it's a smartphone, computer, or whatever it is not built for that. So I feel like that's where a lot of us, for example, let me just give a little quick example here. I've been seeing a lot of videos and headlines of people wanting to sue Tesla, or really get at Tesla for how poor the self-driving functionality is for a lot of the Tesla models. And it's still technology that's currently being developed. It's still something that's currently in the growing stages, you can say. But when it comes to self-driving, now let me exclaim here, I'm no EV expert. I love learning about EVs, but it's still a lot that goes into it when it comes to self-driving software and hardware in general that I'm not familiar with. So this is just coming as a direct expression. This is just based on what I know in common sense. When it comes to self-driving, to me, I feel like this is a feature that's more suited for larger roads, expressways, freeways, etc. I don't think this is a feature that people should use in residential streets and local streets, because, as you know, residential streets are extremely narrow, especially if there's cars parked in the curbside on both sides. Extremely narrow, and sometimes those roads and those streets are very small for cars to pass by. If you're using a technology that's really early in development and that's still being tweaked on and fixed on a space where it's not suited, residential streets are a lot smaller than freeways, as we know. I feel like a lot of people who own Teslas should take that into consideration and not use self-driving on a residential street, and more use it for long distances, for larger roads, because it just makes the more sense. That's a perfect example of using a technology the way it's not supposed to be used. And then you automatically want to blame Tesla. Sure, the technology isn't perfect. Sure, you can't defend that and say, oh, Tesla has developed the best method of self-driving in any EV manufacturer has ever before. No, because you can be honest and you can say that the self-driving is not perfect and that it still needs to be worked on. Sure, you can't really argue that, but at the same time, you need to have that sense and awareness that, okay, this is a self-driving feature. I feel like it should be more suited, or I should be utilizing it more in larger areas that cover a large space, not in residential streets. So I just wanted to make that clear that when it comes to technology, whether it's self-drive, I mean, self-drive does require AI, so that's coincidence that we're discussing AI here. But we need to do better of realizing the situations and just be smarter when it comes to technology. If if you're sure that a piece of technology is compatible to doing a lot of crazy other features that it's not able to do at the very moment, and you have the right tech, you're very safe with it, you're sure that you might run into some mishaps, but like still find a way to fix the problem. And yeah, rigging is fun. Jailbreaking iOS or operating systems, it's fun to do, but you gotta know the consequences. You gotta know the end effects, and not automatically blame the manufacturer or company that develops these things, because you know you're the one that's in the wrong. So I just wanted to put that out there real quick. But yeah, back to the topic of AI. There's no need to alarm ourselves. AI is still in early development, and personally, I think it's not going to be the same as the depiction that we see in many sci-fi movies or TV shows of today. But yeah, like I said, although in most cases, AI right now, as it stands, is being used for a lot of good reasons as well. To develop music, books, care and welfare. It's being used in that field. In short, it's making decisions that affect your life whether you like it or not. This is one statement that I found rather interesting and really intriguing. AI is used to make decisions that affect your life whether you like it or not. Now, okay, this can be rather alarming. This could be rather concerning for a lot of people. To be honest, I see it as artificial intelligence is making decisions and doing things for good or bad, but that depends on how you program it in a way or what you want that technology to do. And yeah, I mean, in a way, autonomous means automatically on its own. But the fact to make decisions about your life, whether you like it or not, I don't think that's something that you should, be alarming of right now. Because, like I said, AI is something that people are still working on, are still trying to figure out the quirks, the negatives, the pros, and the cons. So, I don't think that we're saying this statement that it's gonna be like how it's depicted in a lot of sci-fi movies and shows that AIs are eventually gonna take over the world and humanoids are gonna go rogue. No, I think what it's trying to say here is that AI has the power to make decisions because of it, because of its autonomous um, functionality and power that it has. But you still have that control to, you know, allow AI technology to not do certain things. That's, I kind of took that expression and kind of reworded it and just, put my take on it because, like I said, it really all depends on the user, on the person who has the control of this technology. So, in some cases, it all depends on how you're using these technologies as a whole. I also want to discuss another section of this article that states how companies sort of exaggerate AI in a way, for either marketing reasons or for them wanting you to get the product, even though maybe those particular products don't really have the wowing and awe-inspiring AI technology that they advertise or market. So in the article, it states it can be difficult to square with the hype and bluster in which AI is discussed by tech companies and advertisers. So here's a perfect example. Oral-B's Genius X toothbrush, one of the many devices unveiled at CES this year that touted its supposed AI quote-unquote abilities, but dig past the top of the line press release, and all this means that it gives pretty simple feedback about whether you're brushing your teeth for the amount of time and in the right places. So essentially, what this section of the article is saying that all the toothbrush really it functions at like a normal electric toothbrush that you could find, at a CVS or a Walmart or wherever, any convenience store nearby. But it just gives extra feedback when you're brushing your teeth for the right amount of time and on the right places. There's also some clever sensors involved to work out where in the mouth the brush is, but that's not really AI. that's more just the technology really giving feedback, which a lot of tech nowadays does. For example, the brand new DualSense PS5 controller, it has haptic feedback rather than rumble pads. That really just kind of notifies the player that either you're walking through gravel or that there's a wind nearby, and just kind of gives you that aesthetic and realism feel. It's not that it's doing something for you. This is not saying that automatically when for example, when you put the toothbrush near your mouth or on your teeth, that it's gonna automatically turn on and start brushing for you automatically. No, all this is doing is giving you feedback on how you're brushing your teeth and the way you're brushing your teeth. So, as the author of this article explains, it's not something you should really consider artificial intelligence. So yes, in a way, tech companies do exaggerate this idea that what they're developing and what they think is really artificial intelligence is not. And that happens with a lot, businesses and companies really exaggerate things to make you want to think and believe that this product is going to be bleeding edge or top of the line. It's all how it works. That's all how marketing and everything works. So I found that really intriguing as well. Now, okay, along with artificial intelligence, there is a subfield that accompanies AI as well, known as machine learning. Now, machine learning works differently compared to AI. Machine learning enables computers to learn on their own, but there's more to it rather than that. So instead of doing familiar tasks that doing familiar tasks in a familiar way, in terms of just that's what AI is doing. Machine learning kind of learns the task and does it based on what it learns, if that makes any sense. So there was a quote that I wrote down in my notes here that I found really intriguing in terms of machine learning. With a machine learning hammer in hand, the digital world is full of nails ready to be bashed into place. So essentially what that means, since when it comes to machine learning, a computer is learning, taking a lot of knowledge in from either programs or pieces of hardware, it's ready to complete any task off rip, and you don't really need to teach it anything. Because when it comes to AI, you kind of need to show the piece of tech what to do. So at that given point, the piece of technology knows what to do and is already programmed to do different tasks. Machine learning, the machine learns on its own. So, ready full of nails. I see nails as task. I interpret nails as like task. Ready to put into place. So with a machine learning hammer in hand, so with you and the ability of machine learning and the ability to learn on your own, you're going to be able to complete a lot more tasks more efficiently because of that aspect. And oh yeah, artificial intelligence isn't organic intelligence. It doesn't play by the same rules humans do. So again, artificial intelligence, it plays by the rules on what you express or on what you teach, right? But machine learning learns completely on its own, no matter what. So it's organic intelligence. It doesn't play by the same rules that humans do. And there was a good example of this for machine learning that was written here. Let me just find it. Okay, it's a problem. So I'm gonna read it all out, then we're gonna discuss it. Let's start with a problem. Say you want to create a program that can recognize cats. It's always cats for some reason. Yes, find that funny. You could try and do this the old-fashioned way by programming in explicit rules like cats have pointy ears and cats are furry. But what would the program do when you show it a picture of a tiger? Programming in every rule um, needed would be time consuming, and you have to define all sorts of concepts along the way, like furriness and pointiness. Better to let the machine teach itself. So you give it a huge collection of cat photos, and it looks through to find its own patterns in what it sees. It connects the dots pretty much randomly at first, but you test it over and over, keeping the best versions, and in time it gets pretty good at saying what is and isn't a cat. So again, perfect example of the aspects of learning on its own and not really needing the rules or different demands that a human would give them. Because it's all self-knowledge in a way. So I found that really interesting. And there's more to it as well. There's more to the problem. Mission 4, I'm sorry for it, was more important. Reading the gloss, but really thinking about what gloss implies. What are the side effects of having a decision-making system learn like this? So the biggest advantage to this method is the most obvious. You have to actually program it. Sure, you do a hell of a lot of tinkering, improving how the system processes the data and coming up with smarter ways of ingesting that information. But you're not telling it what to look for. It looks for it on its own. So yeah, pretty much this sums up the whole aspect of machine learning on its own and not applying by the same rules that humans would give a piece of tech to do. So yeah, there's another part of this article that I found really, really interesting. Another quote. Teaching computers to learn for themselves is a brilliant shortcut, and like all shortcuts, it involves cutting corners. That's, this is something that is extremely too. It's a brilliant shortcut, but it's gonna involve you thinking of outside the box and figuring out what could be the end result of it all. Because you can teach a piece of tech to do something, whether it's a robot or um, a sort of like game program that's kind of like guessing and learning based on what you program it. But it involves cutting corners, which means it involves you thinking outside the box and figuring out what I need to do whenever the tasks get difficult in a certain way, or when something kind of has that blockade within that task. What I need to do as a programmer, or what I need to do as a engineer to fix this certain issue. Because yes, teaching technology to do things on its own, it's great, but you always need to have those end thoughts in the back of your mind. So I think that pretty much wraps up the entire section for AI and machine learning as well. To sum it up, AI is a brilliant thing, but we need to be really careful on how we utilize it, much like any piece of tech that exists now in today's day and age. So yeah, that's AI in 2019 and also machine learning based on an article that was written by James Vincent. Amazing article, and this is coming from The Verge as well. So they do really good at covering these topics and just keeping you up to date with what's going on in the tech world as we know. But now I transition to the next part of the show, and that is pro wrestling. Now, I haven't had a pro wrestling talk on here in a minute. I think my last pro wrestling talk was episode 2 of Talkative, which I spoke about CM Punk's arrival to AEW, and also amongst other wrestlers like Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. But we need to seriously, and if you come across this episode of this podcast in general, and you're a pro wrestling fan, you're about to automatically agree with what I have to say for this pay-per-view and just the state of WWE as a whole. Now, 2022 Royal Rumble. I saw it with expectations as low as possible, as with everything WWE nowadays. And I mean, off rip, I just gotta give my rating of the entire pay-per-view 4 out of 10. That's how bad the show was. I give the show a legitimate 4 out of 10. And I mean, I I don't know what happened here. I really don't know. As you know, WWE is known for making a lot of last minute decisions when it comes to their writing and their booking. But this was just, you know, borderline bad. This was bad for a company that has over trillion, you know, tr- three, no, just I think $1 trillion worth of just net worth, just money. A company that is rich. This show was, I mean, this show was the worst show of 2022. Everything about it. And to start off, I mean, you started off the show with such high energy, high hopes that the rest of the show is going to be a lot better. You have Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And I mean, everything about the beginning of the match was brilliant. Having Seth Rollins come out to the Shield theme and dressed in the Shield attire was top notch. I mean, I thought that was great. Brilliant storytelling, brilliant psychological warfare that Rollins was having with Reigns. And that was great and all, but then you proceed to the match. And then that's where everything just began going downhill. Now, mind you, this was a phenomenal match. Everything about it, the spots, the back and forth, the storytelling. But you have to end such a great match, such a great opener to a show via disqualification. A 5 count disqualification. Like, now, here's the thing though. Automatically, you automatically say, okay, maybe they're continuing on with this feud. But no. What happens later on in the show kind of has everyone scratching their heads and figuring out, well, what the hell happens now? So, you have a great match, but you have to ruin it with such a bad ending. Now, let me just say, WWE kind of does this thing where they book only a select few of people because they know that those people have a high caliber of accomplishments and pretty much have a great resume all throughout. People like Charlotte Flair, people like Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, and I mean the list goes on. Sasha Banks, although Sasha Banks hasn't really had a main event spot in a while now, but this is where creative needs to reevaluate and know what the hell they're doing wrong. Because you have a roster of hundreds of superstars and female superstars, women wrestlers. You can't tell me that you don't know what to do with these superstars because as a creative team of many, may I add, it's not like you have a creative team of 3 people. You have enough writers, you have enough creative directors, you have the staff that you need to write proper storylines, to push the proper talent in the proper manner. Don't tell me, because I've seen this throughout the years. I've seen this one phrase many times. WWE releases a wrestler. WWE does this, does that, because they can't figure out what to do with him or her, right? Why? That's something that, as a WWE fan, I will never understand. Why? You have the people. You have you have everyone. You have the brains. You can't tell me that you can't figure out what to do with certain talent. You're just so stuck up on booking the same set of people over and over and over again, right? So I just wanted to put that out there. Back to the Royal Rumble. So, yeah, automatically, that kind of just set the tone of the show as a whole. And I was watching it. Well, my buddy and I were watching it simultaneously. We were texting each other through DMs, kind of like giving our opinions and take on what happens throughout the show. And he says, "What are the odds that after this match is over, the show basically goes downhill?" And what do you know? That's what happens. The rest of the Royal Rumble it was a mess. It was a cluster F of a show. I can't even say that because I know YouTube is going to be sensitive about it, but you get what I mean. The show, from that opener and that first finish of the first match, was just bad. It was bad. Now I'm gonna be jumping around a few matches. I'm not gonna go in order of like how the match card went, but following the, let me just say, the only great things about the show was, the action and the match quality of the women's Royal Rumble match and the first match as well. Now, Ronda Rousey was the winner of the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble. Now, it was rumored, it was speculated that Ronda was going to make a return to WWE, but I didn't expect it to be in this particular manner. You have Ronda Rousey come in almost number 30, or I think she was number 30, I can't even remember. Come in and just win the Royal Rumble just like that. And now I was really pulling for somebody like Liv Morgan. Liv has improved tremendously in terms of just her character development, her mic skills, and her wrestling in-ring performances ever since she left or got split from the Riot Squad with Sarah Logan and Ruby Riott, now known as Ruby Soho in AEW. She has improved tremendously. And WWE has kind of been booking her good, but I don't know what happened here. This was a missed opportunity. Liv Morgan, in my eyes, in my humblest of opinions, should have won the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble. And this is where the problem with creative lies. Why do we have to stoop to such level to let a former UFC bantamweight champion come in after 3 years of being absent from WWE? And the stuff that Ronda Rousey has been saying behind closed doors hasn't really been good stuff. She's been bashing the WWE universe and the WWE as a whole. But to be honest, everything she said about the company and the fan base of the company, I don't know if it was out of her work, if it was on purpose, or if she was actually feeling that way about, and expressing her opinions towards the company. But I'll just never understand as to why you're gonna push somebody like Liv Morgan to the point where like, oh, the fans are like crazy and on the edge of their seats because they know that, okay, maybe her time to become champion is coming up because they've been treating her so well, and then you have her get eliminated just for somebody like Ronda Rousey to win the Royal Rumble. I just don't. I don't understand. I really don't. Now, granted, look, I love Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is phenomenal, but I will never condone what she said about the WWE. I'm not gonna say it here because it is kind of controversial. But to say the least, what she said about the universe, the fan base, it was vile, disrespectful to say the least. So I will never condone that. But I mean, as an athlete, as somebody that's worked within this space in martial arts and combat sports and sports entertainment, she has my respect. So I have nothing against Ronda on that regard. But it's just the way that the Recreative is handling the situation. So that happened. Ronda Rousey won the Royal Rumble after being rumored like a few days, if not a week ago, that she was going to come back. So there's that. Then you have the dream match that is 13 years in the making. This is a match that people have been waiting on for years and years and years. People have made custom fan art. People have rumored it, people have speculated, wrote articles on it. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. For starters, this was a great match. This was a phenomenal match. Phenomenal dream match, if anything. Brock that is currently wrestling right now is probably one of the best versions of Brock Lesnar that you're gonna see for a long time. Ever since he debuted as the next big thing, this is like one of the best versions of Brock Lesnar. He has more mic time. He's been talking a lot more, being more expressive, and it's great. You know, the fans are behind it, everyone is behind it, and it's just, you know, it's comedic Brock Lesnar, still with the Beast tendencies, still with the same gimmick, the Beast incarnate, but just with that big comedic effect. Going up against somebody like Bobby Lashley for the very first time. Now, let me just say, this match was great. This match was everything that we ever wanted from a dream match between these two. Spears, German suplexes, no sell. Okay, the no sells that came from these German suplexes was perfect. Every time Lashley no sold the German suplex, I was there like, what the heck just even happened? Everyone that Brock Lesnar has German suplex would sit there on the mat in pain and grief selling the move, and Lashley just nonchalantly stands up like nothing ever happened. So that was pretty amazing. Yeah, so that just, you know, that pretty much set the tone for the rest of that match during the Royal Rumble. That match was set to be one of the greatest World Heavyweight Championship bouts in recent memory. But, you know, WWE Creative going at it again with their horrid booking and just decided to have Roman Reigns come in during the match and spear Brock Lesnar and have a heel turn, not heel turn, but backstab from Paul Heyman when Heyman hands over Roman the title, and then Roman just bashes Lesnar in the head with the championship, and then Lashley crawls over, goes for the pin. Lashley wins via interference, and it's just, you know, that pretty much was, like I said, you know, the first ending of the first match pretty much set the tone for the rest of the show. And then you had, you know, Ronda win the Royal Rumble, and then a dream match that was 13 years in the making end through interference. It's just, you know, I still question to this day why creative is like this, why the mentality of Vince McMahon is like this. He's still stuck up in these old-fashioned ways of booking shows and booking matches that he's not willing to adapt to new times, to new changes, new generations of pro wrestling and creative writing. But, you know, that was a huge disappointment for me. And at that point, I was pretty much done with the pay-per-view. I think the next few matches were um, Edge versus Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Miz and Maurice, which, I mean, it was an okay match. It was fun seeing Edge and Beth wrestle together. So, I mean, that was great and all. But then, oh man, I need to sit up for this one. Then the 2022 Men's Royal Rumble match. Now, hear me out. We started off with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Phenomenal first two to start off the match with. And then from there, pretty I'm gonna be jumping around here. From that given moment, it was just unused talent after unused talent after mid carders, champions, and like I'm just saying it how it is. I by no means I don't want to disrespect any of the athletes that participated in that rumble. You know, Otis is great, Chad Gable is great, but I gotta be honest, they're being underutilized. They're practically mid carders the way that the WWE has been booking them. So yeah, the entire Royal Rumble was just people like Madcap Moss, Baron Corbin, Alpha Academy, which is Otis and Chad Gable. Rarely any Legends reappearances, really any surprises other than Bad Bunny. I was not expecting that. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, Johnny Knoxville coming out and having his fair share of punches with AJ Styles, that was pretty comical and pretty funny. But that's not going to fill in how horrible not only this Royal Rumble match, but how horrible the entirety of this pay-per-view was. Those little moments, I mean, Bad Bunny getting F5'd by Brock Lesnar and Johnny Knoxville appearance is not gonna cover up for the atrocity that the show was. So, you know, I find it crazy that Nakamura, AJ Styles, and Ricochet were all eliminated too. I honestly, to be fair, I thought AJ was a fan favorite and that he could have possibly ran the gauntlet and won the Royal Rumble from the #1 spot. Oh, let me just jump around here and just hit the big elephant in the room. If you guys are not aware, for any of my wrestling fans that are listening, Matt Riddle was reportedly supposed to win the Royal Rumble and headline WrestleMania against Randy Orton. They were supposed to break up RK Bro and have a main event match between Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle was supposed to be the 2022 Men's Royal Rumble winner, but much like, you know, WWE is used to doing, they made a last minute decision and have Brock Lesnar win the Royal Rumble match. Yes, Brock Lesnar, the man that just had a world title match and lost, came in, unexpected. I mean, no, it was pretty predictable, to be honest, and won the Royal Rumble match. When the initial plan was to have a young up and coming talent like Matt Riddle come in and break, you know, turn heads and drop jaws and win the Royal Rumble for the first time in his career and headline WrestleMania. But no, no. Somebody in the back, whether it was, Bruce Pritchard or Vince McMahon or one of the creative team members, were like, no, 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 no. We need to have Brock win this match and have him face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. When initially, Matt Riddle was supposed to win. And, this is crazy because I was having a conversation with one of my buddies about this. Is that if I was Matt Riddle in that position, and by the way, Matt Riddle has has pretty high tensions with a lot of wrestling legends. Two in particular that come to mind are Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Matt doesn't like Goldberg for anything, and Matt wants to retire Brock Lesnar as well. So, tensions are definitely high there between those two men. If I knew that I was supposed to win the Royal Rumble match ahead of time, and then just out of the blue, somebody comes over and told me, no, actually, we're gonna have Lesnar win instead of you, and then he's gonna headline WrestleMania, I would have been mad. I honestly would have just left. I would have told Vince, you know what? No, I'm out of here and I'm gone. I find it crazy, and I give prompts to a lot of these wrestlers who manage to maintain a composure when WWE does creative decisions like this. Who manage to just, man up, be the stronger person, or and just say, all right, you know what? That's fine. And just keep that level of professionalism, even though they were supposed to have their Royal Rumble and WrestleMania moment. But listen, dude, if I was Matt, I would have been livid. Especially having the man that I want to retire win the Royal Rumble. It's like a spit to the face. It's like a fu, Like you want to retire this man? Well, he's about to rip your WrestleMania dreams away from you. So I don't know. I just find it crazy that Matt Riddle is just able to just maintain composure and just stay professional and stay loyal to the company even after creative decisions like that are made. But yeah, I mean, that was a Royal Rumble. I pretty much described the main gripes from it. There's still a lot more that we didn't like. I mean, the overall pacing was horrible. I mean, you go from a phenomenal um phenomenal opener with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns to a really, really good portion of the Women's Rumble. The Women's Rumble was amazing until you had Ronda Rousey come in and win it. That was really Liv Morgan's opportunity, bro. But that's a talk for another episode, to be honest, if you want to come back to this discussion. But yeah, that was the Royal Rumble. Probably one of the worst pay-per-views of 2022 already. And we're only 2 months into this year. But then, fast forward to the following night, Monday Night Raw. They're now past the Royal Rumble and now getting ready for Elimination Chamber at Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The premium live event, which I find pretty funny to be honest, that they're titling that the premium live event, because that's pretty much what all these Saudi shows are. They're not really a high stakes pay per view or WrestleMania caliber pay per view. They're just like they advertise it as premium live events. So Monday Night Raw, you have elimination chamber qualifying matches. Now, before I even mention what a few things that this company decided to do on this show, which pissed me off, I will say, the end result was pretty stacked. This chamber match that's coming up is pretty dang good. I mean, you have Brock Lesnar, which I'll get to that in a moment. Brock Lesnar, Austin Theory, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, who's defending the title, and I'm missing one. Crap, I'm missing one here. But yeah, those are 5 out of the 6 participants. I'm forgetting the last one. So qualifying matches happen, and oh, let me just have this be a disclaimer. I hardly keep up with SmackDown and Raw, like the weekly shows, and pretty much use social media like Instagram and Twitter to keep up with what goes on throughout the week. So I never saw these matches live on TV, but I saw the results on Instagram, and my friend who watches WWE weekly told me what happened. And just one of the few things, he told me that Austin Theory beat Kevin Owens clean to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. Now, let me just say, great that they're pushing somebody like Austin Theory, amazing indie talent, amazing talent at Evolve, phenomenal. But what are you doing to KO, man? You're gonna have Austin Theory beat someone like Kevin Owens, former 3-time, he's a 3-time Universal Champion, if not 5, one of those numbers. Former Universal Champion, headlined multiple WrestleManias, former United States Champion, former Intercontinental Champion, former NXT Champion, and you have him lose clean to Austin Theory. It's kind of like you're doing the polar opposite thing here. You're pushing a talent to then just bury another one. It's like an opposite effect. You get what I mean? Pushing someone like Austin Theory, which is great, but you're leaving Kevin Owens basically on the sidelines. And I don't know. I found that astonishing that they just have KO lose clean and have Austin Theory held in the Elimination Chamber, but it all circles back to how creative is being handled in this company. And then you have not really much of a qualifying match, more of a demand from Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar pretty much got added to this match by demand. And now he's going to be fighting the chamber match it just came to my head. Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle is the 6th participant that I was missing from the chamber. He's in the chamber as well. You're going to have Brock Lesnar crawl his way into this match. No qualifying match, no nothing. After he just won the Royal Rumble match. Now again, I'm gonna explain this again. I love Brock. I love this version of Brock. I'm not really mad at Brock. I'm mad at the entire creative team as a whole as to why they make decisions like this. So yeah, I mean, Brock Lesnar is headlining the chamber at Jeddah, fighting for the Universal Champion. The WWE Championship. Wow, he still has a match with Roman Reigns coming up. Now, knowing this company, they could just go crazy, and I mean crazy, and this is what a lot of people have been saying, speculating, have Lesnar win the chamber and then unify both championships at WrestleMania. When you have people like Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle in that match who are way more deserving of winning that championship than Brock, that's just my most humble of opinions on that regard. See, This is just stuff that I can't keep defending WWE from. This is not stuff that can be like, oh no, it's fine. I mean, it's Brock Lesnar in the chamber. I mean, will it be a good match? Hell yeah. Will the end result be something that I'm gonna be looking forward to? Probably not, because he already has a match going at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, but you have him win the chamber match a couple of months before that for another championship. At that point, see, that's where logic just went out the window, because at that point, why the hell would you have him drop the title at the Royal Rumble the night before if you're just gonna have him win again? Now that's if he does win. But no, we don't know. I would love either Lashley to retain, because having Lashley a transitional champion is kind of BS. Or if they are gonna have him as a transitional champion, Matt Riddle has to win and headline WrestleMania. And if they're doing the RK Bros split, if they're splitting those two up, have Randy Orton versus Matt Riddle at WrestleMania. Easy as cake, man. Easy creative decisions right there. But knowing this company, they can literally just go downhill heading in towards the chamber and just book this completely wrong. Which they've had a history of doing, of booking shows and pushing talent completely wrong. And there's just so many faces that haven't had a moment in WWE yet, and I find that astonishing. Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, yes, he's won the mid-card title a few times, tag team title a few times, won the Royal Rumble, but this man has been in this company for more than 6 years, and he still hasn't won his first main WWE title. One of the most proficient strikers in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you treat this man like this. That's just one. Mustafa Ali. He, right now, speaking of which, hates the company as it is. Wants to ask for his release, but then was denied his release a few weeks afterwards. Mustafa Ali is another underutilized talent, and it sucks to see. Hasn't won a single championship at all. Being in the company for more than ever since he debuted at the Cruiserweight Classic back 2016. So he's been in the company for more than 5 years. Hasn't won a single championship, not even mid-card. And you're treating this man this way. Ricochet. Amazing high flyer, amazing speed, amazing agility. Only won the United States Championship once, and it was a horrible run, horrible title reign, the way that it was booked. And that's just 3. The list goes on. Cesaro, the Swiss Superman, has won the United States Championship over the course of his career, and he's been at the company since 2010, over 10 years, over a decade. Has won the US title, multiple tag team championships, and that's about it. Got the main event push, got the main event spot at Payback in 2020, I think, against Roman Reigns. Lost the match. And now Cesaro, literally, I haven't seen Cesaro on TV for the longest time. Cesaro should really be the WWE champion by now. Has had multiple opportunities stripped away from him because WWE wants to push talent that already had the spotlight once, twice, or too many times. And those are just 4 wrestlers. I can name more. On the women's side of things, Amber Moon, who was released, was another one. She debuted on SmackDown, never won the Women's Championship, not once. Went back to NXT, won the NXT Women's Championships with Shotzi Blackheart. Amazing. They're best friends in real life, and it was great seeing them tag team together. Never won the world title. Bianca Belair only had 1 world title reign after being with the company for more than 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years, excuse me. There's another person, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, who who was released, but she made a return at the Royal Rumble. Ruby Riott, who is now known as Ruby Soho, hasn't never got a women's championship opportunity, or even if she did, she never had her moment, her reign. The list goes on. The list really, really goes on. Um, yeah, I mean, this is the state that WWE is in right now. It's a constant loop, constant feedback loop of just pushing the same talent over and over and over again, because they know that these set of group of people are the only few people that are bringing ratings up, or that are turning heads towards the TV every Monday and Friday night on a weekly basis. But they have a roster of hundreds of female and male wrestlers that they decide not to push out of spite. And it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how low WWE has gone over the past few years. And don't even get me started on releases and budget cuts, because again, that's a whole nother conversation for another episode if we want to get into that. But ladies and gentlemen, we're now reaching over an hour of recording time. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Those were my thoughts of the Royal Rumble, my honest, down-to-earth thoughts on how horrible that show was, and just the state of the WWE and creative as a whole, and how I see the direction that they've been taking over the past 5 to 6 to 8 years now. To be honest, almost a decade. Because this started, I want to say this started when the brand split happened. As soon as the brand split started back in 2016, everything just, which mind you, for 2016 and 2017 was probably one of the best years in the 2010s for this company. After that, all downhill. But regardless, I'm going on a different tangent here. Dude, honestly, I could talk about wrestling all day if I wanted to, but we gotta fill in episodes and space for other topics. But thank you for joining me for episode 7. That was my review of the Royal Rumble and my thoughts on the current state of the company and how they're handling creative. Not so great. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Thank you for listening all the way through. Now, before we finish, as you guys know, I like to end these episodes with an interesting disability fact for the episode. So the one for this episode is the following, which I put a double asterisk in because this might be worthy of a section for an episode in the future. Worldwide, the most common disability in people under the age of 60 is depression, followed by hearing and visual problems. So again, I put a double asterisk there. I might keep this disability fact in mind because it's actually really surprising and really astonishing. So, with that being said, this was Talkative episode 7. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for having time to listen, and you guys take care, and we'll see you next week for episode 8. We're almost at double digits, almost to that episode 10 mark, and I can't wait to get there. So, appreciate you. Take care. Bye.